Yo, yo, welcome to Trippy Commentaries and another episode of our WWE RAW reactions. It was a pretty good episode tonight, guys. We saw of course, the epic conclusion to the Stephanie McMahon going to prison saga. Apparently she just went to jail, even though she was screaming that she was going to prison last Monday night. Brie Bella showed up. That was pretty cool to see what happened there, and I will say Corey correctly predicted of course, what would happen in this event, and we'll get to that as that was the very last thing to happen in tonight's episode of Raw, which came live from Houston, Texas. Corey is coming in live via satellite from Houston. I know he went skydiving with the former President Bush today. Corey, what's up, man?
Well, as you said, I am in Houston. I did do some skydiving with our former president, George W. Bush. I'm enjoying my time here in the home of the legendary Paul Bosch Houston wrestling territory. Ton of pro wrestling history in the city of Houston and in Texas as a whole. And tonight was just one more chapter in the history of WWE in Texas and on Monday Night Raw. Let's go ahead and get it right on into it, guys.
Yes, and we are joined, as always, by Retro Brett.
Yo, it appears that Stephanie McMahon doesn't know the difference between prison and jail, and perhaps I should enlighten her. Yes,
she did have these serious charges weighing on her. You could tell there was something wrong with her all night. Maybe it was just an act, but we'll definitely talk about that quite a bit in this episode of WWE Raw Reactions. I'm RJ. And let's get right into it as John Cena kicked it off. He was not happy about having to face Brock Lesnar, the Beast, at this upcoming SummerSlam. I don't think anybody wants to face Brock Lesnar, and he himself admitted that he's going to get his ass kicked. Corey, what'd you think about the intro to tonight's Raw?
Oh, it was perfect, man. We had the intro recap video that, basically covered last week's events with Brie and Stephanie, as well as the big return of Brock Lesnar coming out, and, of course, being announced as Cena's SummerSlam opponent in the main event for the title match. Raw kicked off with Cena in the ring to start it out. Mixed reaction as usual for Cena. Seemed to lean a little bit more towards boos tonight in Houston. Cena basically said that he was a marked man by the Authority and that they must have the belt off of him. So they hired the most deadly mercenary in WWE, most deadly force in WWE, Brock Lesnar. There was a massive, massive pop, a huge, great reaction for Cena saying that the WWE Universe wants to see Lesnar beat the hell out of him. There was yes chants, the whole 9 yards. It was pretty crazy. And as you said, RJ, Cena said himself that he knows he's in for the beating of a lifetime, but said somehow, as he always does, he will overcome the odds and defeat Brock, retain the title at SummerSlam. Right at that moment, we saw Paul Heyman come out, the liaison for Brock Lesnar, getting a great reaction, as he does always. Heyman is absolute gold on the mic. He basically says that Cena is just another victim for Brock Lesnar. Cena will be victimized much like The Undertaker was at WrestleMania when the streak was conquered. We haven't seen him since WrestleMania 30, and after John Cena gets done, or Brock Lesnar gets done with Cena, we probably won't see him anymore. More promises from Cena that he's going to be leaving SummerSlam as champion. Cesaro comes out, the former client of one Paul Heyman, and really lights up Cena, man, on the mic. He calls him a big walking billboard, says he's not a wrestler. You can't wrestle in sneakers, and not only that, you can't wrestle. That definitely got a pretty big laugh out of me as well as the Houston crowd and Paul Heyman. That led right into Cesaro challenging Cena to an impromptu match to kick off Raw. Of course, non-title. It was a hell of a match from two of the, in my opinion, two of the most well-conditioned athletes in WWE today.
Corey, I want to stop you there. Before we get into that match, we talked before, we of course started recording. That was an epic match, and we have a lot to say about that one. But I do want to kind of talk about this, of course, intro to the night. Retro Brett, are you surprised that Cena has this stance that he pretty much knows he's going to get his ass kicked? Now, in the end, he said that he would retain the championship. But what do you think about his mentality? He definitely put it all on the line tonight in the ring as far as emotions.
Well, it takes a big man to know his shortcomings and know what's going to happen to him and knows that he's going to get his ass kicked. But I do agree with Cena about, he is Brock Lesnar is a mercenary.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me a lot of Bane, actually. And Brock Lesnar comes around when they need someone's ass being kicked, and the Authority definitely needs Cena's ass kicked and take the title off him because they don't like the title on him.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I think Corey wouldn't mind. You like it, but I know Corey wouldn't mind the title being stripped. Well, not necessarily stripped from Cena, of course, taken from Cena by force. In this case, by Brock Lesnar. Of course, Brock Lesnar defeated The Undertaker. We all wondered what that would lead to because he disappeared. Now he's back to face John Cena. This was one of the first nights where Cena came out. In fact, it was the first night where he came out, had his say in the whole matter. He really, like I said, showed a lot of emotion. That should be a pretty good matchup as we have a lot to talk about leading up to SummerSlam. We didn't see Brock Lesnar tonight, so we'll see when he shows up, probably on next week's Raw, I'm hoping. And we'll see what comes of that, of course, leading up to SummerSlam. Now, getting back into this match, Cesaro versus John Cena. This was an awesome match to, of course, come out of nowhere. I thought Cesaro dissing John Cena was completely hilarious. Corey, go ahead and recap this match, which was one of the best ones I think we've seen in a couple Raws now.
Yeah, as I was saying there previously, I thought this was a hell of a match. These two guys are two of the most well-conditioned, legit athletes in WWE today. I felt like the match benefited from a pretty hot crowd. Was good back and forth. In the end, we saw Cena get the win with the pretty cool attitude adjustment from the second rope for the win. I got to say, guys, for all the flack that Cena gets, he brings his A game week in and week out on the mic, in the ring, no matter what. I mean, he is the company guy. He can make even the most, snarky, smart crowd, so to speak, like him, or, at the very least have to respect him and respect his hustle. RJ, I got to ask you real quickly here to wrap up on Cena for the week, which is surprising. Did it seem to you that this is just going to be the start of Cesaro's road to the main event? Or, was this just a one-week thing? I mean, where do you think you see him going without Paul Heyman as his manager?
That's definitely what I took out of it, C-Dub. The fact that he came out, took the initiative to come out, talk smack to Cena, and then get in a match, and I thought it was an extremely impressive performance by Cesaro. He pulled off some great moves. I thought these guys worked really well together. Hopefully we see something else in the future for those two facing off against one another. And the one thing we got to point out, which was probably most impressive of all, is John Cena fell victim to the Cesaro swing. So it was cool to see that. I felt like we haven't seen that in a while. It was kind of an interesting finish to that where he put him right in a submission hold. Unfortunately, John Cena reversed it right away. I think we all knew Cena was going to win because he does need to be billed as someone who could potentially beat Brock Lesnar. But at this point, we all expect him to lose. And it sounds like he himself even knows that there's a pretty good chance he's going to get his ass beat, despite the fact that he still is confident. I do want to mention that Randy Orton did come on here. He was a little bit pissed off at Triple H. Apparently he's got a problem with Kane now. Of course, Roman Reigns for costing him his big shot at a SummerSlam title chance there against John Cena. He's also mad at Triple H, like I said. So we'll see what that turns into later on in the night. I kind of liked where this was going. I did want to see a change of persona here from Randy Orton. Seemed like a possible start to it. Paige followed that up. She skipped out, just like AJ Lee. And, of course, a feud broke out with that as well. Corey, do you have anything to report there from the Diva Championship feud?
Yeah, Paige came out to a pretty lukewarm reaction. A quick recap of her attack on her former frenemy, so to speak, and Divas champion AJ Lee. Starts to basically explain her actions last week, attacking AJ. AJ comes out. We got our weekly CM Punk chants. AJ's not bad on the mic these days. She sounds like she's been taking some promo classes from her newly wedded husband. Paige basically mentioned the mental state of AJ, said her attack was a mistake, and that was AJ's cue to jump on Paige like a bat out of hell. Paige is, I think, a hell of a lot better as a cowardly villain than she ever was as a fan favorite.
Agreed.
Not really sure about Paige if she's popular with the crowd because of who she's married to, or if she's legitimately over with the crowd. Time will tell for that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, AJ Lee, of course, for those of you who don't know, is married to CM Punk. That's why we always hear the CM Punk chants, and that's pretty much why she's popular right now. That's probably it. Now, after that, we had Triple H and Stephanie McMahon coming out. Stephanie McMahon, as we mentioned, leading into our Raw Reactions recap here. She was a little bit bummed out, a little bit different personality for her. They were asking for Brie Bella, but they didn't get Brie Bella. Instead, they got Chris Jericho. Corey, that was interesting.
Yeah, we had Jericho come out there as the Houston crowd showered Stephanie with the jailbird chant. Jericho made all kinds of multiple prison references and he was in classic Y2J form. He was basically trying to stir up trouble between Triple H and Stephanie there, mentioning how Triple H didn't leave immediately last week after Stephanie was arrested and so on. Triple H goes on and responds by telling Jericho to focus on Bray Wyatt, and right after he did, out of nowhere, we see Seth Rollins come out and nail Jericho from behind with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Triple H then announces Seth Rollins versus Chris Jericho for later in the night.
Now, there's one thing that they did announce in this promo as well, and that was pretty much an official announcement that Chris Jericho would be facing Bray Wyatt at SummerSlam. I guess Chris Jericho really wanted Bray Wyatt. Now, I didn't really get this because obviously we just saw that match at Battleground and Chris Jericho won. So why Chris Jericho wanted to face Bray Wyatt so bad, I really didn't get it. I mean, what did you think about that announcement, Corey? I was disappointed that it was just kind of an afterthought there.
I mean, it was something that was kind of just glazed over a little bit, but as far as justifying the rematch, I feel like that was a great match on the Battleground card. Of course, Bray Wyatt coming and giving Jericho the Sister Abigail into the locker. After that match on Raw, that certainly bridged the gap for a rematch between the two. And I think Jericho versus Wyatt is still a very marketable, big-time match for SummerSlam.
Yeah, and of course, another thing you talked about, Corey, the Seth Rollins versus Chris Jericho matchup. That was definitely an intriguing one, and that is something that we'll be talking about in part 2 of Raw Reactions, as that was tonight's, I believe it was tonight's main event. That was a huge matchup. Definitely one we were excited to see. Retro Brett, we saw an interesting teaming up here. Of course, you had The Miz teaming up with Ryback, and you had Dolph Ziggler teaming up with the Usos with Big E, Xavier Woods, and Kofi Kingston watching the match in the distance. What did you think about this whole storyline with all three of the trios kind of clashing?
Well, first, I think that, number one, Dolph Ziggler and The Miz are probably going to fight sometime in the future.
Probably SummerSlam, I'm guessing.
And then I'm assuming that Ryback is the next challenger for the Usos titles.
Oh boy.
Because they usually put feuding people together, or teaming together and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I like the new team of Big E and Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods.
There, yeah.
I really don't know where it's going, and I just can't see it, but I like the team.
Yeah, I think obviously the Xavier Woods, Big E, and Kofi Kingston trio will rise at some point, maybe even try to pull off a Shield-like takeover. I don't think they'll pull off anything even remotely close to that, but should be cool to see.
We need another Shield. The Shield was awesome.
Good luck.
So we need another three-man team.
Man. So, Corey, what did you think about the matchup? Of course, Dolph Ziggler and The Miz definitely turning into rivals here.
Yeah, most definitely. I do expect those two to probably face off at SummerSlam, as you mentioned, for the Intercontinental title. I hope to see Ziggler capture that title because I'm definitely a big fan. But tonight it was a good back and forth exchange between Axel, the Usos, and Dolph Ziggler. Of course, Ryback, Miz basically had no reaction, not even boos. It's good to see Woods, Kingston, and Big E, out there at ringside and being featured. I look forward to seeing what happens with that. Dolph Ziggler getting the customary "We Want Ziggler" chants. Dude brings it A game every single week. What gives? Give this guy a shot, WWE. Bring this guy up the card. We saw 3 former main eventers in this match, guys, that are all in mid to upper mid card feuds right now. Miz, Ziggler, and Ryback. Miz isn't bad in the ring. Boy, Ryback sure is. I got to say that. Usos and Ziggler pick up the win by pinfall. It was a pretty good match. RJ, do you think you expect Dolph Ziggler to get back in the title hunt, sort of if he does get a match with the Miz at SummerSlam?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Cena, because, like I said, I definitely expect that to happen. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to predict the Miz to win. I think that they're going to keep it on the Miz. So what you said there, where you said you think that Dolph Ziggler could possibly win this match, definitely gets me excited about, of course, Ziggler potentially having the Intercontinental Championship there. That definitely would be pretty sick. We're all big fans of Dolph Ziggler here at Trippy, so to have that going on where they're all of a sudden getting him back in the storyline, that could be cool here. I think it's too good to be true. I think they're going to try to give it to The Miz, or at least keep it on him, and we'll see what becomes of that.
Yes, I like that. Unfortunately, I do agree with RJ, but The Miz is very annoying, which is good for ratings. So they're probably going to keep the title on him.
They're definitely trying to get him to be annoying, that's for sure. Quick question, Corey. I definitely have been wanting to ask you this. I know we don't have a ton of time here in part 1. Make sure you guys stay tuned for part 2. We got a lot to talk about there. But what do you think will become of the trio of Big E, Xavier Woods, and Kofi Kingston? Do you have any Confucius-like predictions for us?
I expect these guys to maybe, as we look at a guy who could possibly join up with them, former member of the Nation of Domination, the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. I want to see these guys get vicious, and I feel like maybe if Mark Henry were to return and show these guys the ways of the Hall of Pain, and if they could just go full-on brutal takeover and wreak havoc, I think that would be best for them. All 3 guys are definitely talented, and I feel like bringing back a guy like a Mark Henry, sticking them with a good veteran in there could do wonders for their career.
Ooh, how about Mark Henry versus Rusev here? That'd be a good matchup, too, if Mark Henry does come back one day.
I tried to say it before, if you don't know, Mark Henry was the mentor of Big E for a little while.
Oh, yeah. So that's definitely a natural fit. One last thing we want to touch on here real quickly. We had an R-Truth appearance today, guys. No talk of Lil Jimmy, but he did face Bo Dallas, the clearly inspirational wrestler, undefeated, but that is no longer, as he has been defeated, in fact, very quickly, by R-Truth. He did a preemptive victory lap, which unfortunately kind of bit him in the ass. Bo Dallas loses, R-Truth wins. Bo Dallas actually cracked here as well, which was pretty interesting. Corey, what do you think about the shocking loss and Bo Dallas kind of cracking here?
Oh, I knew it was going to happen eventually. I certainly didn't expect to see it happen with R-Truth. That was cool. The streak is over. We had a Bo beatdown post-match. I'm certain this won't be over. We're going to start seeing Bo's little motivational speaker act start to crack whenever he's under pressure and loses. Retro Brett, I got to ask you, do you believe that Mr. Dallas there can avenge this first loss? And where do you think Mr. Dallas, Mr. Bo Dallas, can Bo from here?
I'm not sure, but I do want to ask, do you think they're pushing R-Truth by making him the victor over Bo Dallas? The first
I don't think so.
Bo Dallas.
I certainly don't think so. Corey, answering your question with a question, do you see any future with R-Truth?
I see R-Truth, of course, as a veteran, being the first major stepping stone, even though he did beat the streak. It's not like that thing had legs anyway. Provided a way to see Bo Dallas's true colors. I expect maybe a grudge match. We could see it at SummerSlam with Bo Dallas getting the victory and getting the upper hand in this feud, if it is a feud.
Yeah, and they need to stop pushing Bo Dallas's undefeated streak, which obviously they'll do now that he's no longer undefeated, and start pushing Rusev's undefeated streak. He did have one, I think he lost by DQ or something, but that doesn't count to us. We feel like he is technically undefeated. Yeah. And we actually will begin part 2 of Raw Reactions by talking about him and his latest confrontation with the Real Americans. Jack Swagger, Zeb Coulter getting a huge reaction these days. We'll tell you all about what happened in tonight's edition of Raw Reactions. Thanks again for joining us, guys, and we will catch you in part 2. Catch you on the flip side.